Welcome to the Painting Business Pro Show. Today I've got Ty Brown joining me. Ty's got an amazing story. He started in a corporate executive role where he launched all kinds of stores. And then after some personal things happened in his life, he started his painting business in 2021. He's had an amazing growth curve with his business, and he's just done it in such a healthy and successful way. There's some things that he does so well. We dive into it in this show. I think there's a ton you can take out of it. I know I did. But he's got an amazing story and he's an amazing guy and a great businessman. So hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. This is the Painting Business Pro Show, where we share inspiring stories from people who are just like you, who have created extraordinary results in their business and their life. We'll take the mystery out of it and show you behind the scenes exactly how these results happen. There's a simple process and a roadmap to follow to create life-changing success in business. You are capable of more than you realize. So listen in, discover what's possible, and let's unlock your potential. Let's go. All right, Ty, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric. Pleasure to be here.
I think this is actually the first time that we've connected like face to face, even though we've been connected like so many different times over the years. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I think we've been connected a lot on the calls. I don't say much or speak up on the calls, but yeah, it's our first kind of face to face.
That's right, man. That's right. It's a long time coming. and you're in Colorado. You're one of the many Colorado contractors we're all associated with.
Yep, your competitor.
Where? What part of Colorado are you in? Are you in
Evergreen? I live in Evergreen, so I live up in the foothills. Our business is based in Littleton, so I'm sitting in my Evergreen office right now, but we have kind of a virtual office down in Littleton that we run on our Google profile. That is our main kind of hub.
Awesome. Well, before we get in, I know you've got a great story, to share, just with a pretty interesting background before you got into the painting business, how you went all in on the painting business. So we'll get into all that. Before we do, tell us a little bit about what the business looks like today.
Yeah, so I'm about 3 years in, and we've already hit our $2 million mark this year at about a 50 GP. So we're right there where we want to be for GP. We're going to end up a net. Right now, our net is at about a 32.5. Come December here, that's going to come down a bit. Now, we do file as an S Corp, so obviously that's not taken into consideration in that net number. But yeah, we run tight ship, run a very lean operation. So it's just myself currently. I do have a project manager. He's been with us now for 1.5 years, and I just brought on my first salesman this year in July.
Do you have anyone doing administrative or office?
No.
Nice, man. Yeah. So so how much? First of all, really healthy. That's awesome. I love seeing good, healthy companies like this. So 2 million, 32 net. Really high averages for how many people you've got. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, it does. I'm a numbers guy coming from my previous background, and we can always, everyone talks about GP, but I got to fall in love with net profit. That's what.
That's kind of a big reason we're doing it.
Yeah, and I like to run lean. With my background, I have experience in QuickBooks, so I do all my QuickBooks work. I like to see every invoice that flows through the company. I want to see it. And then I just have an accountant who does my books at the end of the month and reconciles our banks. I want to answer every phone call if I can. We use an answering service that when I don't answer, it goes to an answering service that pre-qualifies calls. So no one gets a voicemail. We're taking every call. We are lean now. Next year, I plan on adding an admin, probably a VA here, which I'm working on right now, getting that structure in place.
Nice, man. Awesome. When did you bring on the project manager and the sales rep?
So my project manager came on in April of 2023, last year. Okay. So last year, we were budgeted to do 1 million. We were on track earlier in the year, and we exceeded that by quite a bit. We ended up at 1.5. So that was great bringing on him, because before that, running around, you know what it's like, doing estimates, trying to kick off jobs in the morning, trying to walk jobs. It's a lot of work. So kind of waited till the year prior to that. We did about 750. So really knew it was time in 2023 to bring a PM on, which was awesome. And it took me a while to find someone. I went through a lot of candidates, and not saying I was going to give up, but it was hard finding someone. I finally settled on a guy. I had narrowed it down to 3 candidates in the end, and I think I made the right decision. the guy I have now is he's amazing. He's doing a great job.
Dude, patience in the hiring process pays huge dividends. I mean, to have a guy that produced 2 million, and I just assume he had to have done it clean or you wouldn't be this profitable. Can he handle more, or do you feel like 2 million kind of maxed him out, or, what are your thoughts on that?
He produced 2 million this year. I mean, it's a lot because, here in Colorado, we jam a lot in the 7 months, right? So he's probably capped out there. Bringing his VA on, we're going to probably shift some of his workload into that he can still, kind of handle a little bit more. So depending on how the season starts out next year with lead flow and where we're trending, we may add another project manager next year or a project coordinator. I'm going to see how that goes early in the season. We're obviously in that budgeting time right now, looking ahead to next year. Again, I have a sales guy. We brought him on this year. So, hoping
When did he come on?
He came on in July. Yeah.
Okay.
And, my expectations of him is to sell 2 million next year. I am going to take on some sales as well myself, and just see how it goes. Again, if we feel we're cranking midway through the year, we may end up bringing on another salesperson. So just going to play it by ear early.
Yeah, you're kind of in that interesting spot where you kind of got to you got to sacrifice profitability for growth in the next 2 years, basically, because you have to hire a project manager full time because you can't really add a full time salary, otherwise you can't get someone good. Well, before you have a full time workload for them, and same with sales and office. So you kind of, it's like a pause year in some respect with growing net profit, but you're creating the foundation. So revenue goes up, net profit dollar stays the same, but then you've got the foundation to grow again.
Exactly.
We're no good way to do that one.
Yeah, we're in that zone right now. It's like you get, you think about it in 1.5 million chunk increments. Right? So it's like we need to make that jump right to 3 to justify that extra salesperson and that project manager. Yeah.
Well, that's great though. So, towards the end of the year, once you brought on that sales rep, like what's your day-to-day and your schedule looking like for the business these days?
Well, these days, after bringing on a salesperson, that was, running around doing 20 to 25 estimates a week. It's a lot. And the day he accepted, I remember pulling over to the side of the road. I was like, almost like tears in my eyes, just knowing the load that was going to come off my back. But he's been great. We trained him and we did about 50 estimates together. Nice. So he's out on his own now. He has experience in sales, and on the production side as well. He ran the residential repaint portion of a business for another company, started in sales there, and then oversaw sales and production. So he has a decent experience in the business and here in Colorado. So he kind of knows it.
How's his performance been?
It's been great. He's been good. Unfortunately, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but lead flow the second half of the year did fall off a bit for us. We typically see that dip in July, August. It came back up, but it just didn't seem to come back up where it has historically. We were trending the beginning of the year, we were trending up to budget about 15, at some point 20%, which we thought we were going to get closer to 2.3, almost 2.5, but the second half of the year kind of leveled out. Now we might end up at like 2.1. But it's been great since he's here.
The third year in business, right? Third year in business? This was the third year in business, though?
Yes, sir. Third year.
Okay, so yeah, darn, only 2.1 and a 30% margin in your third year.
Yeah,
I think you can sleep. I think you can live with it.
It's our third full year. We had a half year in 2021. Sure. Yeah. But yeah, since he's come on, it's like freed up a lot of my time. It's stressful handing that off, right? Because as an owner, you sell, your sales rate's going to be higher than bringing on a salesperson. But that was hard. It's hard to let go, right, of the sales. And I've trained myself. I don't have a painting background. So over the years, I've trained myself to sell. And it's been great, seeing my sales rate go up. But then once you start seeing like estimate approvals come through and you're like, whoa, I'm seeing it. This is great. He's out there selling. This is coming in and I'm not out there. So that's a great feeling. It's still coming in. but yeah, now I'm just, I'm back, doing more marketing, planning.
Yeah.
A little bit more time popping into jobs. I know every sub crew out there. I know every crew lead. And I like keeping that relationship. I don't want them to be like, oh, that's the owner showing up, right? They'll come up, drop what they're doing, give you a hug. It's great. So I like to get out now, having more time to get out on projects, obviously on estimates when I can as well, popping in there. So freed up a lot of time.
Well, it's really nice when, you start to get that point where the work you're doing is the work it's not like you didn't want to do all your work before, but you had to do sales, and now you don't have to do that. You can kind of do, okay, I need to work on marketing and planning and all that now, and I want to go and build relationships, and I want to train my team, and I want to stay connected. It's a nice transition to be making. I mean, how has it, just your experience of running the business changed now that you've got those two people in place?
Yeah, I think we're a little bit more proactive now on things, right? Mm-hmm. So throughout the year, obviously you're busy through the summer months, you're running around and stuff pops up. I have an ongoing list in my phone of like stuff, that process improvements, so on and so forth, that we need to start handling in December, January.
Probably a really short list.
So I've been getting on those a little bit earlier, right? Yeah. And just some of the other things like, dialing in SOPs, working on processes, some automations that needed, work, throughout the summer that we're seeing, some production rates that needed some massaging. So it's really freed me up to do a lot of that, and kind of focus on being the visionary, right? Of what's next, where are we going to go, and do more strategic thinking.
Yeah, very cool, man. I can tell you run a really healthy, clean business the way you're talking about all this stuff. Yeah, the process improvement lists just never end.
Yeah, I have multiple lists.
Oh yeah,
I have a Paint Scout list, an SOP list, multiple ones in my phone on the,
But you've got a little more time to work on it now.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah.
Never enough time though. Never enough time. It's hard to. It took a long time for me to learn that balance of being okay with the pace of things, because it's never going as fast as you want, and the more you try to make it go faster, it's just not. It doesn't make it go that much faster, but you're a little more stressed out.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I don't know where you want to start with just your background and stuff, but would love to dive into probably start with what you were doing before you even got into painting, how you got into painting, when you went all in on it. For some reason, I feel like I've known you for longer than just a few years, But so I'm kind of surprised that it's only your third full year. But anyways, why don't you just start wherever you feel like makes sense?
Okay, yeah. So my background, I come out of a corporate management, executive management position. I've been in the action sports industry, actually the surf industry in California. I was a vice president of retail operations for a large surf brand. Was with them for about 18 years. And they were a wholesale company. I came on to grow their retail department. So they had one store when I came on. I grew them to about 30 some stores, company-owned licensed stores. So whether it's through acquisitions, we built most of our stores, but we acquired some as well. We take over operations. So grew a team, grew them to be a larger retailer than they were a wholesaler. That was a huge accomplishment.
That's awesome.
And really, my whole life I've been obviously didn't grow up with devices, computers, all that stuff. So I've been outside and obviously hands and everything in the trades and building and so on and so forth. So part of that in the building when we were building stores throughout the country, built a lot in Hawaii, Florida, throughout California. I was really, kind of attracted to the construction side of things. So I was running those projects, basically GCing them, do the build outs. So really was familiar with kind of managing crews and that. When I did get out of that, worked here in in Colorado here a bit, when we moved here, and just was getting burned out. I just seeing my kids for, half an hour in the morning, going into work, driving down to Denver, coming home, seeing them for maybe an hour at night before bed, just it's getting tired of it. Right. So I'm my friends were in the trades. I have a couple friends who own our contracting businesses, and during the week they're like, "Oh, you want to go ride today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got to go to work." Or, "Can you go golf tomorrow?" I'm like, "Oh, I got to go to work." And was like jealous. I'm like,
You
these
can only
guys,
say that so many times before it just kills you.
I know it kills you. It's like, nope, I gotta work. And you know what it's like going to the mountains on the weekends. It's not fun.
I'm just curious. So how much of seeing the painting business, you're like, oh, it's seasonal, and the down season is the snowboard season. That's a pretty good appeal.
Yeah, now this season with no estimates in the winter, I'll be getting up.
Yeah, man. Well, in Evergreen, you're just right there. That's killer.
Yeah. So I started, looking into.
By the way, how long were you at that company as a VP of?
18 years.
How many?
18 years.
Oh my goch, yeah. All right, so you were there for quite a bit.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So really, had 300 some employees. Built a team there. So again, getting into painting and not knowing painting, I was in the same situation there, right? Working in that environment, I wasn't an IT guy, but I hired an IT team. I wasn't a buyer, but had to hire buyers. So it's really putting the right people in and hiring the right people, right?
Yeah.
So as I started to kind of get burned out of in an executive role, I started looking into the trades, right? So what trade can I get into? And my plan was just start it on the side, start to grow it, and eventually maybe I can kind of walk away from this. Ended up Googling stuff and looking around, and you popped up. So seeing, looking into that, and like, wait, what? It can make this much money painting and these profits? I never thought that, right? And in Colorado here, you don't need a license to get into painting. So that was nice. Easy barrier of entry, really not much capital needed. So I started looking into it, and next thing you know, here in Colorado, I lost my job. My job position was eliminated at the company I was at. So I was like, called my wife.
This wasn't at the Action Sports, was it?
No, this was here.
You had left Action Sports.
I came out and worked for a startup out here in Colorado. I opened 5 stores for them, and the owner we didn't really see eye to eye. He was shady. So that ended abruptly.
Yeah.
Call my wife. She's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm driving to the Verizon store. I'm getting a cell phone for the business. And, I've been looking into this painting thing. I've been going through I'm like starting it today,
Yeah, that's great. I was going to go to work, and now I'm just going to go to my new work.
Yeah. So got my phone at the Verizon store, got a business number. That was July 11th of 2020, right in COVID time.
July 15th. That's awesome, man. That was like height of chaos COVID too.
Yeah. July 15th, I had the business registered within the state. And then I was interviewing, right? I was interviewing for jobs. I was out there thinking I was still going to go out and get another executive role and just start this on the side. Started having some issues. My stomach, I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was a lot of anxiety, obviously out of work and doing that. So I went to the doctor and got some news that, it's tough. A lot of people don't want to hear, but I was diagnosed with cancer. So
what type of cancer was it?
Colon.
Okay.
Yeah. So that changed my life that day, right?
Yeah.
So got that news, didn't know what to say. I didn't say a word. They're like, yeah, it was a Friday afternoon. Like, we got to get you in for some scans immediately. So on Saturday, we'll get a hold of you. So I walked out, didn't say a word. My 2-year-old, 4-year-old, my wife from the car. And at that point, I said, I'm not going back to work. That's it. Yeah. I'm not going back to work. So that's when I made the choice of now going from the side hustle, I'm going all in, right?
Yeah.
All in on this painting business. That is what I'm doing. I need the freedom. I need to take my kids to school every day. I need to pick them up every day. Life is too short. Not sure what's going to happen here, right? So got the ball rolling on that. Went through, obviously, a lot of stuff is involved in that. Went through surgery, robotic surgery. Was still going through the process, talking with Sherwin, get my account set up. I was still going through all that. Got through my surgery and started going out and giving estimates.
When was that, the surgery?
The surgery was August 15th.
Wow, that was a fast timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, they moved quick. which was during COVID, which, I've heard horror stories of other states during that time where people were really backed up waiting. But yeah, we moved really fairly quickly.
Yeah, my mom got diagnosed kind of surprised too. Like she was in between normal screenings and stuff, and my sister's an ICU nurse and said, my mom was sharing some things. My sister's like, you need to just go in right now. And yeah, 5 days later, she was in surgery. I mean, that stuff happens quick.
Yep. So I went through that.
Okay. That's a crazy month then. July 11th to August 15th is a whirlwind of 5 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to my Starbucks office every day, working in there and meeting people there, getting my website set up, getting all that taken care of, and meeting with Sherwin and everyone, getting my account set up, and shared my story. And a lot of people were looking at me like I was crazy, right? That I'm starting this now. And, friends of mine are like, it's COVID, it's this, you're starting a business,
Yeah.
So I went through the surgery, started giving estimates, got my test results back from the surgery, like, okay, we need to put you through chemo, right? So I needed to go in for chemo. So I had to heal a month before the surgery, before I went to chemo. So I'm out that month giving estimates, selling, and next thing you know, I started chemo, and I thought I would just power right through it, and no, it put me down. So I had to kind of shut down. I produced $34,000 my first month that year, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't get out. It just took a toll on me. So I had to battle through that. Finished that in January, early January. My last treatment was I think like December 31st, 2020. And then I was also on some oral medication going after that into January. Got my feet back on the ground that spring, kind of got a trainer, started getting my strength back. Started going out and giving estimates again in April. Okay. So that was a partial year by the time we started producing, right? So
gotcha.
A half a year. That's how I got into it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of all of it in a nutshell. I can go on, I don't know how far you want me to go through the years of how we build our business, but that's how I started it. I never thought it would turn into what it turned into today, especially not having a painting background. It's, I owe it all to you.
What did you think when you first were starting? Like you didn't think this. What did you think?
I didn't know. I'd like, a side hustle. I'll, make some money here or there. But when I decided to go on, I'm like, it's not complicated, right?
Yeah.
When I look back and we bought our house, we bought a house early 2020, and I had painters do the interior and exterior, and it was a nightmare of an experience, like drinking, smoking on our property, and like couldn't find a project manager. They wouldn't show up, and I'm like, I can do better than that. Like it's not hard. So really, I just kind of put my head down, learned the trade. It was intimidating at first, right? Going into paint stores or talking to people, it's intimidating. But now I feel like with the training I've done and what I've learned over the last few years, I'm pretty savvy on the trade.
Yeah.
The industry.
Well, so a lot of directions to go. So one, just to kind of close the loop, you're cancer free now.
4 years in remission. Yes.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What, how did that change you?
It changes your mindset, the way you think daily. Like it doesn't, so no 10, 15 minutes goes by a day that I don't think about that, right? It's hard. Yeah. It is hard. But the biggest thing is like, I just focus in on my family and my kids. Yeah. It's like, I did bottom out, right? So without a job, going through chemo, when you are in that situation, you don't necessarily say, oh, is this doctor in my network? You go out, you find the best possible treatment you can get, the best doctor, and that's the route you're going to go, right? So my life savings, my emergency savings, obviously not working for 8-10 months there, kind of disintegrated, down obviously a 401k and stuff, but I basically said, okay, we're starting over, and looking at that as like, I got to build something for my kids, and something that if something does happen down the road like this again, that they're going to be set, my wife will be set. And looking at the money we've made and the process we've made over the last 3 years, I would have never made that progress in 10, 15 years in my executive management role, in terms of saving money and making that much money.
Yeah. Well, and then, just your time, your schedule, like the time you have with your wife and your kids, like what's that been like for the last few years, even though you've kind of been in like startup mode and obviously growing really fast? Yeah. What's that all been like?
Take my kids to school every day. I get up, make them breakfast every day, take them, drop them off at school every day. I must do that. So I do that every day. I pick them up every day as well. So
amazing, man.
On my schedule, I pick them up. This year, they're like, Dad, they're adamant about riding the bus. So I ride the bus, so I have a little bit more time. But yeah, that's something I just had to do every day, and I want to do that, right? But yeah, my time, it's changed. I have that flexibility. Again, friends call me want to golf, I can go golf now. Want to ride on a Wednesday, I can go ride on a Wednesday. So that freedom is great.
Yeah.
So.
At what point did you start to see a bigger possibility in the business? So at some point it's like, oh, this is a side hustle, I can make some money, and then how has that kind of changed over time? Like just what your goals are, what you see as possible with the company?
Yeah. So again, I focus on the numbers, P&L guy, and seeing it, I didn't really realize it, right? I went through the course, and I know it's tough to find the subs and make your profits and stuff, which you got to vet through a lot. But seeing even in those small years, I'm like, in 2022, we did 750,000, just under there. We netted over 200. I'm like, wow, So then started doing the math where we can go. Yeah. 2022, we doubled that, and I actually took on some consulting work in 2022 outside the industry just to help me kind of get back to where I needed to be financially. But we doubled our business that year, doubled it the next year. And now this year it's looking like we're going to be at about a 33 to 34% increase over last year. So seeing the growth potential, seeing what's out there, I feel we live in a very competitive market, but there's still tons of opportunity out there, like seeing the guys that are out there, who you're going up to bid against. Like we hear it every day, we're the highest price out there. And I'm like, but our win rate's 53%. So we should actually raise our prices, right? So, it's just seeing it, that's to answer your question, like just early on in those small numbers, seeing the possibility and like, well, if I can get to here, there's money to be made in the industry.
Well, yeah, and you had a background in seeing the P&Ls of like these individual stores, and you're like, whoa, this painting business is like way better than a store.
Totally. Yeah. I wish I could put subcontractors in all my stores I had, right?
Yeah, man, that's awesome. 53% is solid too. Yeah, I guess we're in a competitive market, but also it's so big. I see it. It's crazy to me how many painting business pro members that are in Colorado. Oh, and yeah. I have 4 companies in Colorado. And I just talked before I got on with you. I was talking with Bruce, who's down in Denver, and you're in Denver, and there's so many companies, and they're doing a good job, but like, there's never been a point where we're like, oh, we're not growing our business because of the competitors. It's like, no, we're not growing our business because we still aren't good enough at marketing, or we're not training our sales team well enough, or like, it's always an internal constraint. It's not like a lack of business out there.
Yeah, I want to bid against Bruce. I want to bid against the good guys out there. It's just going to raise the level and to raise the expectations of the homeowners. If I'm going out and bidding a job and I'm bidding against 2 other guys, chucking a truck guys, we're going to look a lot higher, right? So it's, if I'm bidding against Hunter and whoever else, like we love that. That's where we want to be, and it comes down to, hey, like work on your sales process, and it's going to raise the bar for everyone. So I think
so you you go start this business, you go through the almost year of all the cancer treatment and taking care of your health and kind of going all in on that, and then you start the business with the main motivation to essentially like create a lifestyle, like to spend time with your family, and like I've got to do this for those reasons. And then somewhere along the lines, you start seeing like bigger numbers being possible. So like, what's kind of the goal now? I mean, from here, because you've gotten to a pretty sweet spot where you're at 2 million, healthy business, good margins, people running day to day. Is it keep that schedule free for golf and riding and spending time with the family, or like what are the goals with the business now that you're here?
Yeah, I think finding that sweet spot, right? It's like you can run a very healthy $2 million business, right? With solid net profit. Seeing some businesses out there that are doing 5 to 7, and you're doing almost a similar net profit in a $2 million company. It's like there's a lot more headaches on a $5 to $7 million business than a $2 million business. So, we do have mapped out kind of a 3-year plan, taking us to 5 million. So I think kind of in that range is where I'd want to end up. But just really kind of let it grow organically too. I'm not gonna pressure it and kind of force it. So just kind of see where it goes. I have tons of opportunity. Last year, we only spend about 4.5% on marketing, which is low. So we have a lot of opportunity to just put a lot more into marketing and really drive it. And that's what we're looking into now for next year, of where we're going to expand into some other territories, drive some other marketing channels. So, I feel like I got my foot on the gas, but it's not to the floor yet.
Yeah.
But I think if I wanted to, we could get there fairly quickly. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the important considerations is always like, what are my personal boundaries? And then I'm going to build my company inside of that, because you're obviously an ambitious, person. You've had a really successful career, and you're capable too. So, if you say I want to get to 5 million, like you could make that happen. And so for me, it's always like kind of fending off the ambition to make sure I'm keeping my priorities straight. Because I'm the same way. I'm home every day till like 9 o'clock with my kids, and I'm home as soon as I can. I like spend a lot of time with my family. Like there's other things that are important to me, not just more in the business side of things. So what's your ideal schedule look like, do you think?
Well, I think for me, the ideal schedule is really just, managing, doing one-on-ones, managing the team, not really getting out there. I do love estimating. I love going out and estimating, but if I can step back from that and really just manage my team, I can't not work, right? I need to be in the office. Even if there's not much going on, I'm in the office, watching podcasts, constantly learning, reading books, whatever it is. So I constantly have to be engaged, but I'm not a micromanager either. So, I think it's really just building that team, having the flexibility of me not being the business not depending on me. There's certain things right now that still do, that are dependent on me, payroll, that kind of stuff, right? Submitting that, getting, commission payouts out there. So if I can get to the point to let all that go and something comes up and like, hey, I'm going to go fly out tomorrow to see my parents for a week, I can do that and it's no problem. At that point to have that type of freedom, or I'm going camping and I'm going to be out of cell phone range for 2 weeks, that the business can kind of run on its own, which also is appealing down the road for investors and so on and so forth.
Yeah, totally. Unfortunately, they don't sell particularly well at that stage. You're like, keep the cash flow, but it's, you've created a good business for you. I think there's I got to work some. I mean, I can't not work, but you're not too far away from like that becoming the focus. And in a lot of ways, like that is the smart thing to do with the business, is like start to make me not required for it, so I can show up and work when I want to and when I need to. Very cool, man. It's an exciting spot to be at.
Yeah, more just like, putting fires out where needed, being able to, I love showing face to clients during projects, and, they love seeing, the owner out there on the job. So I still love doing that and still will continue to do that. Yeah.
I miss some of those. I mean, I things have changed a lot for me over the years, but like there's times where I'm like, yeah, I kind of miss just the simple, the simpler days of like, yeah, going and being on sites and doing some estimates. And like, it's been a long time for me doing all that stuff, but there's something beautiful about it. And I always try to be aware of like, what are the things I'm going to miss in the future that I'm like dealing with right now?
Yeah.
Because I tend to, I'll tend to complain about things. And I'm like, dude, you're going to miss that. You're going to miss that. I even miss some of the crazy days, at the very beginning. I wouldn't want to do it again, but there's something fun about the early hustle and all that too.
Yeah. And it's fun for me. Like I had to get in that hustle and learn it. Right.
Yeah.
So, running.
Can you speak to that actually? Can you share a little bit about how you went from no background in the painting business to learning what you feel like you need to learn to be able to really deliver?
Yeah, so I did paint one summer when I was a kid. One summer job, didn't do much, couple homes. The owner of the company was afraid of heights, so I was doing everything on the second story and up. That was back. I was born and raised on the East Coast, so I was back there. But really, I've just learned a lot from being in groups, Facebook groups, podcasts, leaning on your Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore reps, learning a lot from them, and really just getting out there and being hands-on, right? It's intimidating. It was intimidating when I started, not knowing some of the applications, some of the products, especially being in the paint store surrounded by, some painters and stuff in there, and they're chatting with you and you don't know what to say, or they're kind of like looking at the paints that you're rolling out of the store, kind of, joking around. But it's really like, when having those honest conversations, I'm honest with my subs when we're hiring them, saying, I'm not a painter. I need you guys to be the professionals, direct us, give recommendations. So we're really walking a job with them and really making them feel part of the team and be a partner, and getting insight from them on what we should be using, what we should be doing, kind of different techniques, which now I've, obviously learned, but it's finding the right people, right? It's like our sub crews, we've had sub crews that have been with us from day one, since we've started. So a lot of them just, they live and breathe Mountain West painting. They love us and we take care of them. And, hiring the right people. Like, for example, my PM, he owned a business, painting business on the East Coast for 25 years. So he has a ton of painting background. So he knows the ins and outs, and he can manage subcrews, right? So, really just hiring the right people, leaning on them to learn it is kind of how I picked it all up.
Yeah, I think that was one of my other questions. Yeah, by the way, I don't think there's anything surprising there. It's like there's lots of resources. It's not that complicated. Like, you can learn it, but you just got to get in there and learn it. How long do you think it took you from like starting to feeling like you weren't worried about the paint you were rolling out of the paint store anymore?
6 months.
That's what I was going to guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not too crazy here.
Not rocket science, but again, I think you make this point is like, I always, I think you said this, I'd run like a marketing and production business, right? So that's the big thing. I don't need to be a painter. I haven't painted. I did one touch up on a bathroom ceiling. I couldn't get the sub crew to go back out, but I haven't touched a brush. I don't plan on it, and I don't feel I need to. So
yeah, you need to have the knowledge, but not the skill. I mean, I'm a god awful painter. You put me on like a small job and I will drip and get it on me. So I learned not to do that anymore. Even little stuff, even like a little 2-hour project. I'm like, don't even, it's a bad idea. All right. So transition over. Obviously you have a pretty unique background, coming in this business. I've got a couple hunches, but what are the skill sets or skills you feel like you developed in that world for 18 years, opening all the stores, doing everything you did there, that translate most to your painting company?
Yeah, I think it's just the business number side of it. Really knowing that. I mean, I am on my production board twice a day doing job costing, looking at numbers. If the job's not hitting a 50 plus GP, like, we're digging into it. We know that day, and we're figuring out why that day and we're fixing it, whether it's a production rate issue, whether we missed it on the estimating side of things. So it's really the numbers side. I'm very P&L driven. We aren't looking at stuff on a monthly basis. We're looking at stuff on a weekly basis, right? So how many leads do we need this week? How many jobs? What do we need to produce this week? And if we're off track, we're on it right away. Whether it's, getting on our marketing team saying we need more leads, or what are we doing? We're here. Why didn't we produce as much this week? And then obviously thinking of an action plan to get back on track. So I think it's important to do that on a weekly basis rather than waiting to the end of the month saying we missed our budget. What happened? Now you got to kind of come up with, kind of a reforecast going forward. That can be a little harder if you aren't looking at it on a week-to-week basis.
Well, for me, I know for a long time, we also fell in the trap of not only were we not like really looking at it daily on, daily numbers, or we still would like report them weekly. But the bigger issue we had for a long time, and I've seen a lot of people have, is you don't really correct it to hit the target immediately. It's, oh, we'll catch up later. Like it's such an easy trap. Oh, we missed by $5,000. Not a big deal. Like we'll catch up later. So anyways, if I was someone listening to this right now, like I'd be taking notes on what Ty just said around the obsession around numbers, and not just obsessing about knowing the numbers, but the rapid correction of missed numbers. That's really good.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we set our budget for the year, and it is what it is, right? Looking at it weekly, we get on, but it's important to go back and reforecast every quarter as well. Like if you're on track or you're beating budget, okay, where do we need to go? Where do we need to pull back? Where do we need to spend more? And reforecast every quarter. The other point of my experience, my background is just kind of team building as well. Building rapport. It's like I'm all about the emotional bank account, right? So my project manager and I will talk on the phone for 30 minutes straight before we even talk about what we're doing today or where he's going or, kind of what's on the agenda for today. Same thing with our sub crews. It's like not going up, not barking orders, know something about them, talk about how their family's doing something, make deposits in that emotional bank account every day before you start talking about the work side of things. And I think that's why we have a great kind of retention on our sub crews is we make them feel a partner. And even we have tons of sub crews, constantly coming to us for work. And the bigger we get, the more we're getting actually them seeing our ads out there, seeing our trucks out there. So I think, that's another team building is one thing that a trait that I've learned from my past experience that is really helping as well.
Yeah, those are the two that stuck out to me. You mentioned 300 employees. Somebody scaled that to. It's a lot of people.
Yep.
You mentioned the need to hire subject matter experts on things that you don't understand. You mentioned the production manager you brought in who brought 35 years experience with him. You mentioned how patient you were hiring that person. So it was just like, there's what you just spoke to is the relational capital on the backside once you've got those. But can you speak to what your experience is with recruiting and hiring the right people? I think that, and I'm curious about that because I think everyone gets it wrong. Like everyone learns that lesson the hard way. And I know it's really, really tough because it's so subjective, like evaluating people, and it takes practice on interviewing. But what are your thoughts on like how you go about recruiting the right person in the first place?
Yeah, it's super important. And it's hard. Like, right, you put an ad on Indeed to get 300 resumes. You're like, whoa, what is going on here, right? So I think the important thing is once you do narrow it down, and the way I narrow it down is I start looking at resumes. I don't even look at their experience at first. I look at their work history. So if I see that at a job 1 year, they're jumping right away, that resume is to decide. I don't even look at their experience. Yep. After I narrow it down and see that they have some retention within other organizations they worked at, then I look at their experience, right? And then kind of determine it from there. Well, they might not have experience that fits for me. Okay, so then we move on and narrow it down from there. But it's I hear so many guys out there that'll talk to two people like that. For hire, you got to talk to 8 to 10 people, and you're going to know after talking to 8 to 10 people the one that stands out, right? The other thing is like I got to the point where I posted my ad for a salesperson early in the year. It was like January, February. I didn't hire them until July. Was I stressed out about it? Absolutely. But did I panic and hire out of desperation? No. That's the worst thing to do, is to hire out of desperation. I was to the point where I'm like, okay, I didn't have a painting background and I trained myself to sell, and my sales rate is decent. I am going to just find a good human being, that I can relate to, that I feel is going to be a good fit with myself, my project manager, and for the brand, and I can train them. I was at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I did find someone who fit the bill. But hire slow, I know you hear tons of times, hire slow, fire fast. It's really just do not hire out of desperation. For me, if it's like we have a goal next year of, say, 3 million, and I can't fill the team to do that, I'm not going to try to force it. I'll pull it down and just make sure we're putting the right people in the right seats at the right time.
You hire the wrong people, it doesn't work out.
No.
Like that doesn't fit that plan.
Yeah.
It's not, the plan is 3 million with a body. It's like, I need to get with the right person. If it's not the right person, it backfires anyway. So I was going to ask you about the timeline on that. Before we get to the timeline, what does that recruiting process look like for you? So first you're posting ads, and then how many applicants did you get before you made a hire with your project manager and sales rep?
The project manager, I didn't get as many as the sales. I think everyone with a sales background applies or auto replies. I probably went through maybe close to 80 applicants for a project manager, and probably over 350 for a salesperson.
Gotcha. Do you know how much money you spent on ads to get those applicant pools?
A couple $100.
Not a lot.
Maybe like $300.
So you had actually a pretty well-performing ad. See some people who get a really low response rate, so they have to spend a ton of money to get that pool. Was this all on Indeed?
Indeed and LinkedIn, yeah.
Oh, LinkedIn too. Nice. Do you know where they came from? The hires you ended up making?
They both came from Indeed.
Okay. That's primarily what we use too.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you go through, resumes do you require cover letters?
I like to see them. We don't require them, but most people, the professional ones, right, stand out with a cover letter. We don't.
Did the people you hired, did they write a cover letter?
Yes.
Yeah. That for us, we put it at the last line. We have a long job post, and the last line is must submit cover letter to be considered, because it just weeds out the people who are auto applying. Because sometimes I feel like I get on the phone with someone and I can get sold, so I want to only get on the phone with the people who sought out this job enough that they took the time to write a cover letter for this job. Okay, so you go through, have they had job retention, or do they bounce around? And then you're looking for relevant experience, and you're narrowing this down. Is there any other narrowing you do before you call people?
That's really it. And then I'll do a call with them first. In this case, a Zoom call, and then kind of narrow it down from there to in person after that.
Yeah. Okay. So then a Zoom call, how long do you usually spend with someone on that first call?
The first call is maybe 30 minutes.
The same with us.
Yeah.
What are you looking for on that first call?
Yeah, just kind of feel them out. First off, see if they can be there on time. Send them a calendar invite. See if they accept the calendar invite, because that bothers me when people don't accept calendar invites.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing with our subs. When we screen, we go through a big screening process with subs. Yeah. We intentionally put them out. We send them an invite a couple days out to see if they receive it and are there on time and can come to something, that's scheduled 3 to 5 days out.
Yeah. I call that first phone call deal breakers and a vibe. It's like a vibes call.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned is relational capital and making those deposits and the relationship. I'm like, well, the one thing that I think is kind of required to do that is you got to like them.
Yeah.
So that's one of the most important things in the first call for us is do we book it for 30 minutes? And if I feel like I have to cut it off because we're just talking so much, good sign. If it ends early, they're out.
Yeah.
If I can't if it doesn't naturally go past 30 minutes, they're out, So it's so funny how many entrepreneurs are people are I can't wait. I want to choose who I get to work with. And then they choose people they don't like, chasing like a performer or something, filling a need rather than like, you're going to talk to this person like more than your friends.
Yeah.
You should like them.
Yep.
And then you go to the interview, and that's just getting more formal interview questions and qualifying and things like that.
Yep.
And then you make an offer from there?
Yep.
Nice. All right, great. And so you said your sales rep was 6 months to make that hire, and then how long did you spend recruiting a production manager?
Production manager took me about 2 months, a little over 2 months. Yeah.
Cool. And you would have waited longer if the right person didn't come along?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like with a project manager, we got a lot of applicants with project management experience. With salesperson, it was a lot of solar, car salesman, like anyone that had sales background would just apply. Like you said, auto apply.
Yeah.
So that was kind of tough. We're not saying those wouldn't be good candidates, but kind of weeding through it, see if they were the right fit.
And then what about after like the onboarding or training? Like what does that look like for you?
It's really getting out there with them. So my project manager, so we have checklists for the project manager, SOPs and he has a pre-walk checklist, during the job checklist, and a final walkthrough checklist, all that we have in Company Cam that he fills out. So is he filling those out now every job? No. But was it great for training? Yes, because it's built in his muscle memory right now. Sometimes we have to go back to him and just walk through them. But it was creating those checklists, going out, really boots on the ground with him, leading by example, going up, talking in front of the homeowner, setting what my expectations were. Because for us, it's really, there's tons of painting companies out there, right? And we just want to for us, it's all about that client experience. So really that connection, that constant communication, and really leading by example, and how I've done it for the past, year and a half before he came on board. Same thing with sales. My sales guy has experience, but here's how I go out and do it and build my rapport, go on, do our walkthroughs. We present on site, which was a big game changer for us. Back in 2022, going into 23, really got our production rates honed in, and we're presenting on site. That was one thing early on for me that was like, well, wait, I got to miss to spend time with my family, but I'm coming home at night and I'm doing estimates. That can't happen. So really in the winter of 2022, going into 23, I just put tons of time into getting those production rates dialed in Paint Scout that actually would match with this spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And that was tough because there's certain things in there. I'm like, what's going on here? So I tore that spreadsheet apart, tapped into the formulas to figure out what's going on. And now my production rates are dialed. So
that's good. Yeah. You got to do it. Yeah. And then you said you did 50 estimates with your sales rep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I just, that's just listening to you. I'm like, those are two things that like is just lending so much to your growth. Is not, you're just doing things right the first time. And I imagine you learn that probably not the easy way, over the whole career of like when I tried to rush things or like, team screw ups, like paid for those lessons. But man, does it pay dividends when you know your numbers inside and out and correct quickly, and huge, man, does it pay dividends to get the right people on board. And then once you do, train the heck out of them.
Yep.
Very cool, man. Everybody will want to know. I don't know if you've heard this on episodes, but it's like marketing. It's usually all the same answers, but what's your marketing mix look like, and how are you generating all this business, especially at a low cost of marketing? Because that's been really strong for you. Yeah,
so it's been up and down. So when we started out, right, we started out with lead services straight away. So, an interesting number is that first year, my lead service was 47% of my revenue.
Yikes.
So really we were on Thumbtack. We tried a couple others.
Yep.
Today, this year, 2024, it's 4% of the revenue. So we've cut that back to almost nothing. We aren't even really paying. We just have our name on there.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of lead services.
Yep.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
I don't like giving them my money because we're allowed, by supporting them, they're ranking above us, right, in SEO. But we're just keep giving them money. So I invested in SEO fairly early on. Going into right into 2021, I started with Town Square, which was recommended, got off of that fairly quickly, and went on some marketing companies. So we rank fairly well. We're in a competitive area. We're up and down. Sometimes we're there in the map pack. So our organic rankings are good. This year, about 33% of our business revenue is from organic.
Yep.
About 32% we're at right now is repeat referral, which that number is continuing to grow as we mature, obviously, and we expect that number to continue to grow, which is great. I mean, those are converting, obviously at a high rate. Facebook's up and down. We had great years with Facebook. This year, early on in the year, Facebook was great, but really died off the second half of the year. I don't know if that was driven by the election, but Facebook is about 14% of our revenue this year. And those are really our top sources.
That's 80% of it. Yeah.
Yeah. We work with some roofers, which, we've had some big hailstorms here.
Yep.
2023 and 2024. They've been great. One roofing company saved us this year, pulled us out as we started to slow the second half of the year. And that's been great for us. And, I know we don't work with GCs, but what's happening during that hailstorm, these roofers were so busy and their guys just couldn't keep up. They're looking for the smaller guys, but we would pitch to them. It's like, listen, we are the final touch on your home for your roof. You put your roof on, you do gutters, we're the final touch for that client. We want to build a client for life the same way you do. So we have a project manager. We run them through our process of how we're going to communicate, final walkthrough, signing off the job. Your project manager doesn't need to be involved. And these roofing companies now just want that experience more than the price, right? Because they've had just nightmares.
Yeah.
So that's been good for us. So I think that's kind of a channel we're going to try to pursue a little bit more next year, see if we can make those connections. And obviously, if another big hailstorm comes through, that would be amazing.
Nice.
So that helped us. And besides that, that's really it. SEO,
right?
And just keep driving that. And Facebook. We haven't door knocked from day one. Next year, we plan on rolling out a pretty big door knocking campaign. So that'll be another, hopefully, good source of leads for us next year.
Yeah, well, that's nice because you can really control the outputs pretty well. I mean, it's pretty direct input output. I mean, you've got a lot of control over that. What has helped you with your referral and repeat business rate?
I think just our service, right? Our communication, our quality of work, really in the community here. We've wrapped our trucks at the end of 2022, and that's made a huge difference for us. We get so many people from our trucks seeing us around town.
How many trucks do you have that are wrapped?
3.
Okay. Your sales reps, your project managers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. I mean, I'm driving my truck around all the time wrapped. Sometimes I don't want it wrapped, but I know. It generates so much business, and I'm like, I'll just live with it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops, forgot that I'm representing the company right there.
Yeah. But again, we get a lot from that. Just yard signs. We're also doing a lot of reactivation campaigns. Is something that we were, started doing here the last year and a half that has helped generate some repeat referral business, and really being adamant about our CRM and making sure we're labeling in our CRM of like, okay, this was an exterior, this person had an interior, so we know, okay, we did an interior for this person. Let's not blast them for an exterior paint in a email blast. Let's get on them for interior.
Yeah.
Push them this year. This year we rolled out holiday lights as well. Let's push them for holiday lights.
How's that going? I said, how's it been going?
Yeah, we just had a hiccup in our marketing. The post office lost our mailers. We had 12,000 mailers go out, just never showed up at homes. We got a late start on the mailers because the company we've been using to use EDDM for our painting business decided they were too busy and weren't going to send our first round out, so we had to go to another company. So It was good, and we did about 25 homes. It's good to keep our guys busy, keep them engaged.
Yeah.
High profit margins are insane. Yep.
What was your average ticket on those 25?
It's $1,500.
Okay, nice.
So you got to produce a lot. You got to produce, 6 a day is the key. We're only running one crew on it the first year, so we're doing 3 a day.
I got a buddy who's been doing it for years, and he's, he'll do 500 homes, about 950 average job size, but a 50% net margin.
Yeah.
So it's like,
we're doing
but it took some time to scale it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're doing a rental lease program, so we own the lights, we don't sell them. So our margins in this year have been kind of like in the 60, 65 range. Year 1, year 2, it's going to go up close to 90 when we eat, because our supply cost is already taken into consideration next year. So
yeah, nice. Oh, good, man. Awesome. All right. Well, lots of good stuff. Thanks for sharing all of that. I think there's a lot of lessons in here that'll be really valuable to people. Any kind of closing remarks or anything you would want to leave people with who are listening?
No, just a bunch of things that I've learned is just walk away from jobs, say no. That's one of the biggest things early on. Like, oh, can you guys skim coat this bathroom for me? Like, I look at can you guys do that? Yep. Turns out to be a disaster. So walk away. I think it's the biggest one, and stay focused on what you can do. It's okay. We've walked away this year from some UBCs, UB crazy, we call them, homeowners that leading up to the job have a signed contract that we've walked away from big jobs, knowing it was going to go sideways. So I think that's one challenge of mine where I sensed that out when I was selling, of like, we don't want to get involved with this person, where when you're hiring a salesperson and they think dollar signs, right? They want to sign everything. So that's a big one. A lot of shiny objects out there. I think early on I was wanting like, oh, I want to use this software, I want to use this platform, jumping around. Pick one, make it work for you. They're all the same.
They're all the same. They all have problems.
They're all the same. Yep, they're all the same. You drive yourself crazy. I'd be up at my head spinning at night. Do I need this? So, but we have a great tech stack now.
What is it?
We do Pipedrive for our CRM, Paint Scout for estimating, and Monday for production.
Okay, nice. I mean, there's a million ways you could build that combo out. It's like, you just got to pick something, commit to it, and then do it. And at some point, you'll outgrow it, and then you'll need to do it again. And it is just an annoying thing that you have to deal with.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is really just what's helped me grow fast is creating a good network of people out there. Sometimes you got to be careful what advice you take on some groups. Yeah. And Facebook and so on and so forth, but connecting with a bunch of local guys in our area here, and connecting with some other painters throughout, whether it's PCA or throughout Painting Business Pro, and really kind of making those connections and talking to people, and you learn a lot that way. There's a lot of stuff out there, and you can get in a chat group that can. Yeah. You got to watch.
Well, unless you want to trade spots with someone for the problem you're trying to solve, you probably shouldn't take advice from them. And a lot of time in Facebook groups, you don't know if I want this guy's advice.
Totally. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing is, and really that's it. That's really, for me those are the biggest things, is like, say no, just watch who you take advice from and avoid those shiny objects.
Well, look, the things you spoke to earlier around like the numbers, universally, like pretty confidently can say like almost nobody knows their numbers well enough. No one responds to their numbers well enough, and then everyone rushes the team building stuff. And so those two things are just gems to take away from the conversation. That will will make people a lot of money and save people a lot of time and headache. Yeah. Really good, man. Well, Tom, thanks for doing this, man. And I just so happy for you. With especially just as I've got my young kids too, and just the lifestyle like you're creating for yourself and for your kids and your family, and it just means a lot to hear that, and it makes me really happy. So I'm just congratulations and keep rocking, man.
Yeah, and thank you, Eric. You changed my life. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for you, and I'm super grateful for meeting and finding you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, peace. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. I hope you found it valuable. We make these episodes in the show for you, truly. So your feedback is super valuable to us, whether it's, things you liked, things you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Any feedback you can give us is going to be super helpful as we continue to evolve and improve the show over time. And if you want a copy of the Fast Growth Roadmap for Painting Contractors, which really simplifies the steps you take to building a business, we've got that resource for free for you. Just check the description or the bio where you're watching or listening to this episode, and you can just click and download that for free, and it should help give you a good roadmap for how to build and scale your business like the people that you're listening to on the show. So thanks for listening in. We'll see you soon.